Introducing a whole new form of racing to the best online racing simulation in the world. This is Dirt Racing on iRacing.com. Race online at some of America's most legendary dirt tracks, including Eldora and Williams Grove. iRacing is the premier online racing game featuring NASCAR, IndyCar, sports cars, and now World of Outlaws, the leading sanctioning body for dirt racing. iRacing is easy to use and features a centralized ranking system to make sure you have the best experience at any skill level. With a massive inventory of high-precision laser scan tracks and cars with an unmatched dedication to quality and detail, iRacing gives you the most authentic online racing experience available. Thanks to iRacing's dynamic track system, developed specifically for dirt racing, tracks change over the course of a race, just like your favorite dirt track on a Friday or Saturday night. From a slick racing groove all the way up to the cushion, iRacing's dirt tracks deliver non-stop racing action. Partnered with the World of Outlaws, iRacing is your source for the most authentic dirt racing experience available, featuring 4 brand new tracks and 11 new cars, including street stocks, Legends cars, late models, NASCAR trucks, winged and non-winged sprint cars, with much more on the way. Join the Dirt Revolution on iRacing.com and start slinging mud today.
iRacing.com is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all over the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics and engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. iRacing's web-based interface allows members to compare stats and test drive any combination of car and track instantly. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 60,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsport organizations like SRO Motorsports Group to deliver virtual races based on the real-life Blancpain GT series. iRacing's Blancpain Endurance Series features team racing, giving members the ability to build a team and participate in races ranging from 3 hours to 24 hours. Additional partners include NASCAR, IMSA, V8 Supercars, IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own 24 hours of Spa, Bathurst 1000, Daytona 500, and many more. iRacing.com, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car.
Hi guys, I'm Scott Speed, driver of this amazing Volkswagen Beetle GRC car. I got good news for the iRacing fam. We got this coming in. I'm currently working on it myself personally to make sure that it is as accurate as possible. With the addition of dirt and now this mean car, it is gonna be so fun. And it's gonna be available free to all the iRacing members. Personally, I can't wait to get out there and race you guys on it.
everyone. Welcome to V8 Online's live coverage of the Oceanic Sprint Championship. Tonight we are at Laguna Seca for round 5 of this championship. Jay Kennedy, and alongside me tonight, once again, Bo Albert. Bo, it's going to be a good, fun night of racing. Love Laguna Seca, and the field is very, very tight.
Yeah, the field is very, very tight, Jay. And not just that, but we have a lot of different drivers in new cars for them. And that's a lot down to this track. It's very, very short, not many straights like we see in some of the other circuits. And we also need a very, very good car setup to deal with that crazy corkscrew where you're jumping down almost 20 feet down from the apex of the corner. So a lot of drivers are switching it up a lot, such as Ross Rizzo, who we're so used to seeing in the Mercedes in this series. But he's made the switch over to the Italian Ferrari. So there's a new car for him. And then we also have Josh Rogers jumping in the Mercedes, usually in the Audi. And he just goes and puts it on pole by 0.3 over Anthony Wilkelman.
A big jump in the times are very, very close together, but that's put a big gap in the field. I think Ross Rizzo as well, a different car for him, will be in preparation for next week for the Oceanic Endurance Championship next Sunday. There's still spots available if you are wanting to race, which will be fun next weekend. But tonight, here as we've said, the Oceanic Sprint Laguna Seca for 45 minutes of racing. It's going to be a very, very hectic race. Pit window is very, very interesting. Some guys will be able to do this as a fuel saver. Other guys will have to pit. Depends on how aggressive they are on the loud pedal, but it definitely helps the non-Ferrari cars.
Yeah, the non-Ferrari cars have a big advantage, such as the Mercedes and the McLaren, which both have incredibly large fuel tanks, and they're going to be able to benefit the most out of tonight's situation. Like you said, some cars having a fuel save, which is going to hurt their pace, and it's going to hurt all manners of things for them race-wise. So it's going to be an interesting one to see which cars come out on top, and also which drivers can play the cards right, because not everyone can fuel save as good as others. It's a very unique skill to have, and tonight we're going to see which drivers have it and which drivers don't.
Really interesting to see as well who's actually prepared a little bit. What about it as Rogers just goes quicker once more, 1:19.2. Fuel saving is probably not what guys would be expecting when they jump into the service. So some guys will jump into the race, get 10 minutes in and go, okay, what have I got to do for fuel? Hang on, I'm supposed to be saving. By then it's already too late. Other guys will have already worked out now that they can save fuel, make it home if they're smart. Other guys will be listening to the broadcast going, hang on, fuel saving to make it home. I hadn't even thought about that. So real strategy game will come into play tonight. But the Ferrari drivers are at the biggest disadvantage because they are the most heavy on the gas. We're good to see a bit of a mixed field with 3 Mercedes, 1, 2 and 3 at the moment. Ross Rizzo on screen though.
Yeah, the Mercedes at the moment seem to have a lot of pace at the moment around this track, which is surprising considering how long those cars are and how tight this circuit is. As we see Ross Rizzo getting within 0.2 of his qualifying of his fastest lap at the moment. So time's still very, very close for all these guys, and even a 10th in some places can give you a huge advantage for the likes of Matt Morris right now. If he finds a 10th, he can find himself going from 9th almost all the way onto the 3rd row of the grid. So any bit counts, but right now car choice is all looking to be Mercedes.
Very, very tight from back to 9th and also from 10th back to 12th. A few real clusters of cars with how close the times are in this one, but it should be a really close night of racing as well. We see Laguna Seca always turns on a very, very tight, interesting race, tough to pass. We'll surely see some big aggressive dive bomb moves at the corkscrew and as well coming into turn 1. The final corner as well, also a real tough one that a lot of drivers will try and set up a passing move at, because very easy to go deep under brakes there. It's sort of a bit deceiving how late you can be on the brakes or how early you need to be on the brakes to get around about 120-degree corner. It's a little bit more deceptive.
Yeah, it's a very tricky corner, and there's a few ways to go about it. You can, of course, take the really aggressive line on the brakes and then just try and hope you make the apex and try and get your way to the line, or you can try and set up a move for turn 1 and try and focus your line through the final turn to get the best possible exit. So don't be surprised if when it comes to car combat tonight, we're seeing a lot of different lines through that final corner. And it'll definitely be interesting, like you said, at the corkscrew to see who unleashes their inner Alex Zanardi.
giveaways. You can keep up to date with everything going on in the race tonight as well. We have live timing available on our website, veatsonline.com/live-timing. Of course, live on YouTube and Facebook Live. Also live on MixLR Radio as well. So mixlr.com/veatsonline-radio, and you can listen in. We will be live there for pretty much all of our broadcasts from now on. So if ever you are going to miss our broadcasts, Nick Edwards helping us out and making sure we can bring some audio to people who aren't in a position to vision. So a good way to listen in, keep up to date with what's going on if you can't watch.
Yeah, it's a really cool new thing, and it gives a lot of different people, like whatever situation you're in, you can always get yourself some coverage from V8 Online on what should be a fantastic race tonight, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook Live, or like you said, on the audio stream. So that's going to be awesome. But right now I've got my eyes on Jared Filsell, who has returned from his little break after practice, and he's now on his very first qualifying lap to see if he can get anywhere near Josh Rogers' time, currently standing on a 19.2. Rogers still circulating out on track, trying to get a lap time himself as he crosses the line and lowers it to a 19.1. So Filsell, as he heads into the corkscrew, his target to hit has just got a whole lot harder.
Filsell was quickest in practice, and I think that was what spurred Rogers into jumping in and having a bit of a drive. We saw him a couple of weeks ago in the Audi and didn't have too much luck at Road Atlanta there, so good to see him out on track again and driving the same car as Filsell, which I'm a little bit surprised in him driving the Mercedes, as you said before, but good challenge to see how he goes and tackles this. We've got Filsell on screen about to start a flying lap. He did run wide, guy under the bridge and onto the back straight, heading up to the corkscrew, but really tough first corner as well. So many different lines here and they all feel wrong.
It's one of those corners where corners that you're just never quite satisfied. You can sometimes try and go for an early apex and hit the double apex, and then sometimes you'll try and take a wider apex, carry more initial speed, and hook up the second apex. But like you said, you're just never happy with it. It's a very frustrating corner. But due to the high entry speed that you can take and the multiple lines you can take in that corner, I think we're going to see some interesting runs through that corner in the race. Drivers attacking one another and potentially going side by side all the way through to turn 2, 3, and then maybe even into 4. It can all happen from turn 1, so that's going to be an interesting point to keep an eye on.
3 and a bit minutes left in qualifying. Filsell finds himself in 30th at the moment, but I would say, looking at how smooth this lap has been, he'll slot himself right up into the pointy end, maybe even straight to the top, but definitely been a very smooth lap from Filsell at the moment. Will he be able to pip Rogers on his first proper flying lap? I don't think he will, but I think he's going to slot in a second. He does. 3/10 still though. Big gap between Rogers and the rest of the field.
Yeah, that's a huge gap there. Martin Silvassi doing quite well to only be a 10.5 away from Filsell at the moment, but if Filsell does want to get near Rogers, and we've seen those guys battle so many times throughout the V8 Scops and other series, so Filsell will definitely be wanting to beat Rogers. He doesn't have much time left on the clock. He can maybe get one more flyer in if he comes out of the pits pretty soon, which he does. So Filsell has his eyes set on the 34 Mercedes, but Rogers right now looking pretty ominous for that time.
Yeah, Rogers is doing a very, very good job in somewhat foreign car to him, but one of those drivers that can jump in any car. Wouldn't matter whether you put an extra 100 kilos in it, he'd still find a way to be quick. And he's now trying to improve his lap. Will he be able to do a 118? That would be crazy quick if you could do that.
A 118 would be pretty terrifying around here, and that'd be somewhere like a lap of the gods for Rogers. But as he flicks in through that very fast left-hander, so much commitment from him. He is on it on this lap. I think if he's going to get 18, if it's even possible, this is going to be the lap as we're 2 wheels in the dirt, braking for the corkscrew sideways, and that's enough to throw the lap away, unfortunately, for Rogers. But he's definitely not lacking in commitment tonight.
Martin Silvassi on screen, currently 3rd. Said before, he's just got to get just over a 10th to get up to Filsell. I think he'd be happy if he could get any improvement in time. We've seen times fairly spread in qualifying, and then that not simulator cross into the race. The races have been a lot closer than what qualifying has been in the first few rounds of this series. So good to see what Silvassi, Winkelmann, and Rizzo does. Rizzo's just the man that can pull magic out. He just somehow finds himself a way to get right up towards the front in every single race in this series. Starting from 5th, a little bit higher than what he started in a few other races. Good to see how he goes as Silvassi runs off the track. Going to go around and have another crack. We'll go to Jared Filsell. About to start what will be his final crack at putting pressure on Rogers. 1:19.1. I still can't believe how quick that is.
Yeah, 19-1. That is a pretty terrifying lap from Rogers. And I think even Filsell would have to be somewhat worried about that. Filsell knows the Mercedes a lot better than Rogers would. Rogers would be used to the other car that he uses in the World Championship Series. But for Filsell, the Mercedes is his go-to GT3 car. He knows this thing like the back of his hand. Maybe not quite as well as he knows the V8 supercar, but as he flicks in through the fast left-hander, yep, that's pretty similar commitment to Rogers there as he gets 2s on the dirt on the exit. Still pushing hard though, so he still thinks the lap is good to go. He has a back marker just in front of him, but doesn't look like he's going to get in the way too much. And a very good run through the corkscrew for Filsell, sorry. And he comes into the final few corners now. This is looking good, Jay.
Yeah, this is looking very committed. He's kept into it. He would have backed out of it if he wasn't looking at some sort of improvement. So might actually get some draft down the front straight from this other car as well. See what time he can do. Target time is 1:19.1. Going to be pretty close.
Oh.
1:19.3 does improve, but not enough. Checkered flag is out, so session is done. Josh Rogers has just aborted his final attempt, so start this race from pole. Winkelmann, I don't think crossed the line in time. Bassie's just run off the track and into so front runners, it looks like they're all done. We will go to Robert Northway. He is on a flying lap, currently in 18th position. Current best time of 1:20.7, and he doesn't have to find much time to gain quite a few spots.
Not at all, just a few tenths. I think 2 tenths will get him up to the top 15, so that's a nice improvement for him. And every bit counts. As things stand, he's currently in 18th. It's an even number, so that's going to be the outside into turn 1, and that's not the place you want to be. So if he can get half a tenth, he can at least get himself onto the inside road for turn 1, which is a huge advantage. So as Robert Northway comes into the final 2 corners through that very fast right-hander, lots of camber, you can take a lot more speed than you think you can. Now it's his very tricky left-hander, which we said there's so many ways to go about it. He does a pretty good line, gets the power on nice and smoothly, goes to the line, and is he going to improve? It's a 20.4, so he jumps up to 15th. That's a great improvement.
Noticed also that Jake Maloney's jumped in, went to do his qualifying lap, and had to abort it 3/4 of the way through, so that is session done. Every driver has jumped into the run through starting grid. Right button. There it is. Found it. Josh Rogers will start from pole. Jared Filsell in second. Quality effort tonight. Anthony Winkelmann in 3rd position. Martin Silvassi in 4th. Ross Rizzo driving a Ferrari is the highest placed non-Mercedes. And at the top 6, another Mercedes in Carl Rapper. We've got Mark Rayner, Scott Soslowski, Tyler Blackburn, and Matt Morris rounding out the top 10.
In P number 11, we have Fulton Penny, followed by David Jellings, Corey Ott, Grant Hines, and Robert Northway complete your top 15, with Daryl Carter, Mark Simon, Jeremy Franklin, who is currently 2nd in the championship, so he's not where he'd like to be at the moment. Griffin Gardner in P19, with Rodney Darngry in P number 20.
Yeah, David Coleman, Jeffrey Price, Nino Natal, Jay Brown, Shane Bowen, Simon Mazzomo, Otis Drift, Rob Harris, Corey Slade, Jake Blake Neck, Braden Bateman, James McKee. Some of those drivers will be here. Ready, the cars are on the front straight, waiting for the iRacing pace car to escort them around for their pace lap. While we'll quickly have a look, as you said, about the championship standings. Ross Rizzo leading a fairly decent margin over Jeremy Franklin. Anthony Winkelmann in equal second. Benefield, Rayner, and Mazomo. Jared Filsell only doing the 2 races, but he's had very, very good results in those 2. Finds himself in 8th. Still anyone's championship, though. It's very, very close. We'll see a big shuffle one.
Yeah, we will, and I mean, we're talking about the championship right now, but we're not even at the halfway stage, so there's so much of this Oceanic Sprint Championship still to go, and like you said, it's anyone's game. Rizzo missed the consistency, leads by a fair margin, but he still has to be worried with the likes of Filsell and Rogers now beginning to turn into regulars rocking up to this series, so they'll be looking to take some points out of him today, and those two on the front row should provide some awesome racing today.
It'll be really good to see how they go on the front row, and then across the second row is the Trick Sim Sports guys, Bassi and Winkleman. Good to see how they go and they work through. Eventually get past Rogers and Filsell, who we know love to battle and love to race each other. So it'll be good to see how that all unfolds between those front 4 Mercedes, as well as the 5th place Ferrari of Ross Rizzo, who somehow finds a way to move past cars and make his way forward every single race. So really looking forward to seeing how that all plays out. It will be a very, very interesting contest.
Yeah, it will be an equal machinery. That's just going to make it all the better. And we've also got Anthony Winkleman and Martin Silvassi behind. And let's not forget, those 2 are actually teammates. So they'll be looking to get the one up on each other as well. So those 2 will be fighting it out. And then behind Ross Rizzo in that Ferrari, which we're very, very not used to seeing him in. But there we go. We'll see how that goes for him. And he does have this. He's probably chosen one of the worst races to switch to the Ferrari, as we mentioned the fuel situation just earlier. And this is a good opportunity for drivers to be fuel saving. There's no awards for being the fastest on the formation lap, so good opportunity for those drivers using their heads at the moment to fuel save as much as they can.
A good mix of cars again tonight. We've got Mercedes represented, we've got Ferrari represented, we've got a McLaren in the field, we've got an Audi, we've got a BMW, and for the first time in the series, we've got a Ford GT to prepare for these 45 minutes. We're at about 33 to 34 laps in this race tonight, but one lowly Ford GT, TJ Brown driving that one. So we've now got all 6 marks represented in the series. Got them all in this race. Surprising?
Yeah, it's good to see. It's always nice to have a nice variety, and also for those looking forward with the GT3s going forward, it's also a good idea to see which cars are performing well tonight and which one might be the one to go to with the Pro Series coming up. But right now, Jared Filsell is doing a lot of fuel saving, and he's a long way away from Rogers where he should be. But, shuffles his way forward now as we head into the final 2 corners. The rough safety car that iRacing has slowly begins to pull away, and we're just left with the 27 car and the 34 left to lead this field into the first turn.
Here we go. Wait and see when Rogers decides to go, and he's gone nice and early. And Winkleman's taken advantage, and he's going to get a good run. And he might even get a move done going into turn 1.
Yeah, he's in an awesome position, but who's going to be braver under brakes? Filsell so late on the brakes on the outside and just tries to swoop around, but that outside line is not going to have any grip around there. He holds the position for now and will get the advantage into turn 2, so Filsell barely holds on to position 2 if Winkleman just can't hold it, which he can't. So Filsell dodged the bullet there, but Winkleman trying to get the advantage early.
Big moment for Filsell coming through. For Rogers coming through turn 2 as well. So lucky to hold on to that, but still top 6 as they were. Top 8 actually as they were when they started. Back in the field, Griffin Gardner's around. I think he may have done that one all on his lonesome. Come up to through the corkscrew for the first time. Corey Ott side by side with David Jellings. And the Audi will take advantage and pass the Ferrari. Oh, a big moment for Jellings.
That's scary, especially for Corey Ott as well, when you see the car on your inside getting a big wiggle like that. His heart rate would have gone up, but not quite as much as Jellings, who is now coming under threat from the Mercedes of Robert Northway with a huge dive bomb.
Oh.
Leaves no room at all, and there's contact. And that's just going to send the Ferrari even further back. It is now under pressure from Mark Simon, so David Jellings not having an easy time of it right now.
He's dropped back to 15th now. Unlucky for Jellings at one little piece where he ended up offline and taken advantage by a couple of drivers there. So Winkleman has got past Filsell as well. So that has just happened as well.
Just scrolling back to see when that happened, it was actually Filsell threw that very fast left-hander on the very first lap, running wide, and Winkleman just managing to keep it on track. So much more speed, and that was an easy pass for Winkleman. And unfortunately for Filsell, he's just going to see, obviously Winkleman is no slouch, but Filsell is just going to see Rogers just beginning to run away a little bit.
It'll be interesting to see if they can stick with Rogers' draft. If Rogers can break the draft, he will just pull away. But as we said, the fuel situation is one to watch out for. Silvassi's under pressure from Ross Rizzo now too.
So two different cars, and Rizzo at the moment is the lead non-Mercedes. Very surprising to see the Mercedes so dominant around here, but Rizzo is doing the goods in the for the Italians at the moment, and he's haunting Silvassi a lot at the moment. These two have raced against each other a fair bit, so they'll know each other's trade, especially with the two cars.
Bit of a pack starting to form behind Carl Rapper as well. Front 5 have pulled away, and then Rapper's got 5 cars right on his tail, trying to get something to happen, but not able to do so at the moment.
A nice selection of cars in there as well. He's got the
Filsell, big moment. Winkleman's also run off the track too, and Filsell's dropped back to 5th.
And who's taken advantage of that? It's Mr. Ross Rizzo. He is now right next. He's still with Silvassi, but he's got Winkleman right in front of him too now. So Rizzo, once again, taking advantage of others' misfortunes. But what has happened to Filsell?
Yeah, Filsell and Winkleman both ran off the track, the same spot as the lap previous for Filsell. Winkleman did the same thing as Filsell did on the first lap. Filsell went really, really wide that time. 2 wheels in the dirt on the entry, big slide. Somehow managed to keep it fairly straight. Now slotted back into 5th position as we go back live. Gap from Rogers back now 3 seconds already.
Rogers in just about a different postcode there, 3 seconds ahead of Winkleman, who has managed to recover just a bit ahead of Silvassi, but Silvassi is by no means comfortable as Rizzo, with a much better line through that fast right-hander, was looking pretty promising to get up the inside into this left-hander here. Couldn't make it work, but right now this is a fantastic battle beginning to form.
Awesome little train of cars, isn't it?
As here comes Filsell. So he's going to try another, he's in Alex Zanardi nice and early on Rogers, on Rizzo, so that's an easy move there. Rizzo decided not to fight him too hard, so Rizzo might be thinking about the championship a little bit, knows he doesn't have to fight too hard, and let Filsell do the work against Martin Silvassi, and he's already beginning to attack quite a lot as Silvassi misses the apex, and Filsell has to be smelling blood at this point, fades to the outside, on the dirt though he can't stop the car from there. And that is not the way you would have wanted to set up that final turn. He's going to be vulnerable potentially from Rizzo, but that Ferrari just doesn't quite have the horsepower out of that final corner.
And somehow Filsell's managed to get a run. He's diving up the inside. That's very deep. He's pulled it up somehow. And Silvassi's dropped 2 spots because Rizzo went through as well. That was an incredible pass there from Filsell. I have to get another look at that one, thanks to Cut Price Racing. That was a huge dive from Filsell. He somehow pulled it up. I don't know how. And Rizzo just says, thank you.
Silvassi left that perfect amount of space there for Filsell. There was just a Mercedes AMG size gap there on the inside, and Filsell needed no second invitations. And that was inch perfect move there from Filsell.
The battle for 6, just behind Mark Rayner in 7th, Scott Sustowski in 8th. They were side by side for a little bit there, but this battle for 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and now 11th, all together in a very, very tight cluster.
It's led by a Mercedes, there's a Ferrari in second, there's a McLaren in there, and there's an Audi as well. So this is a battle pack of all kinds of cars. The McLaren looks the raciest at the moment, tries to get a move there on Kozlowski, couldn't do it, but this battle pack is all kinds of madness right now. We'll see if anyone thinks about a move into turn one, Fuel Cell-esque, and not quite. Kozlowski looks threatening, but nothing can be made of it. And it'll be interesting to see how the different cars go. The Ferrari is not the quickest accelerating car in the world, but the McLaren behind it is very quick out of the corners. So Kozlowski will have to be inch perfect to keep that car behind of, that's Matt Morris. So he's the only McLaren in this field at the moment, but he's making good use of it at the moment in P number 9.
Starting to see the strategy game come into play. The pit window for the guys that will have to pit is well and truly open now. So we'll see if anyone... Oh, Corey Ott, who was in that battle pack, that made big contact with the fence. And that Audi does not look too healthy.
That's unfortunate for Corey, and he will continue fighting on. He will continue doing laps, and that's for a great little charity thing he does have going on at the moment, which is the sponsorship you see on the car. So Corey will keep fighting, but he's doing it for a great cause, so he'll keep on running laps out there.
2 wheels in the dirt, come out of the corner, and that's been enough to the fence. So unfortunate end for him in that battle. Go back to the battle between Kozlowski and Morris, 8th and 9th. McLaren's got really good pace down the straights, was really struggling through turn 1.
Yeah, the McLaren is a very twitchy car at the worst of times, especially under brakes into slow corners like turn 1, so he is struggling a fair bit at the moment into those sections, but the second that McLaren sees a straightaway, it becomes something like a rocket ship. You can see there with Tyler Blackburn behind, just down that little straight, just heading into his fast left-hander. You can already see the pace advantage the McLaren has, and that will be paying a lot of dividends up this hill as well. So McLaren has a lot going for it at the moment. And just to keep you updated on the gaps at the front, Jared Filcell was the fastest car of all the leaders on that last lap by half a second over Rogers and 0.3 over Winkelmann. So don't count this race over by any means for the win.
Front 5 have definitely put a very big margin over the rest of the field. Back from 6th back, there's battle packs absolutely everywhere. That battle for 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. Very intense and interesting, but there's also another battle. 17th back, JP Courier, Rodney Dangry, TJ Brown, and Jake Maloney is making his way through the field. Started way back in last. Got the Sol Ford GT ahead of him next. Then a Ferrari. Then a Mercedes. Then another Ferrari. And then a BMW.
Just got about all the marks there in front of Maloney, and that's awesome to see that we're actually getting some variety in this series. And I hope that this continues for the rest of the series, because it'd be awesome to see. But right now in this one camera shot, we've got so many different marks of cars, and TJ Brown at the moment in that Ford GT is not just looking racy with Maloney behind, but he's also attacking Rodney Dangry just in front of him, which is the Mercedes. So that Ford GT, it might not be seen much, but it's definitely got lots of pace in it.
It looks like it's pretty decent around this track tonight, so we might see a few more jump into it in the coming weeks. So good on TJ for jumping out there in that car. It's always tough to jump in a car that you know no one else is going to drive.
It's a bit of a gamble, but at the same time, it could be a gamble that pays off for you, and you could find something in that car that just really works for you, and you could actually find a big advantage from it. So sometimes it's good to throw the gamble out there, and I like what TJ Brown's doing out there in that Ford.
Have a look at how racy Matt Morris is now. Was side by side with Kozlowski, but now Huck's back in behind. Be surprised if he can get a move done very soon though, because he has got some great pace in that McLaren at the moment. Up the inside he goes.
That's a risky dive. you wanted to, but that's a pretty scary place to get a move done. You really have to be alongside if you want to pull that off, but Morris making his intentions clear with Cieslawski in front. Cieslawski knows the pace difference between him and Morris at the moment, going defensive where he can and using all the track and some in some places. So this will be a fantastic battle to keep an eye on, especially out of the final corner where that McLaren is so good compared to the Ferrari. And we'll see if Morris can close up in these next few corners and then make something happen into turn 1.
Lasky has to defend again. Morris will get a good exit here, and with the speed that he's got in that car, I reckon he'll get it done, but he's going to have to go the long way.
Couldn't quite do it, but he's going to think about it on the inside. Has to change direction. Cieslawski with a Verstappen-style move under brakes.
This is good to watch.
Very risky. It's great to watch, but it's going to be terrifying in Matt Morris's seat. And Tyler Blackburn right now must be feeling pretty good. Just sitting behind this at the moment, just trying to get any advantage you can if these guys come together. But right now, they're all playing for keeps.
Get a cut price racing replay of a potential incident back in the field. Not too sure if there was or not. Seen that Jake Maloney has appeared from the session, decided to pull off the track, and TJ Brown's jumped in the pits. So nothing in that. I thought there must have been something, but there wasn't. We go back live. I believe the battle for second is now on.
Rogers is just doing some crazy lap times at the moment, and he's averaging roughly 19.7s, which is so much faster than the two in front, with Winkelmann this time across the line has only just managed 20.3. So Phil Sells so much faster, Winkelmann knows it, and that's about as easy as you could ever want.
Didn't worry about putting up a fight, or better of it, just seeing Matt Morris in the pit, so he's coming in to take some as if the BMW of Jeremy Franklin. The McLaren and the BMW already playing their fuel cards, as is JP Korea. So a few guys starting to come in now to make their splash and dash of fuel. Don't need much, around about 6 to 8 seconds worth of fuel, which feels like an eternity when you want to be out there racing in a real intense battle.
Yeah, it's not the easiest thing in the world, but where you can lose some time in the pit stops taking fuel, like Morris will with that huge fuel tank in that Mercedes, in the McLaren, sorry, you can make up this really tricky pit exit road, which you can make seconds. Some will take easy just to get through it, but if you really push through there, try your luck a little bit and make it work, you can potentially make a second and a half and make a big advantage. We're seeing the car in front of Morris there, that's Grant Hines, having a big wiggle through that fast right-hander, and Morris takes advantage of it, goes up the inside. That was close.
That was really close, Grant Hines. And there we go, your favourite thing in the world. Oh, a bit of headlight flashing there from Morris. They come onto the back straight, up to the corkscrew. Morris off in the dirt trying to get through.
That is one thing you have to be careful when you are flashing your headlights, Mr. Matt Morris. You have to make sure you're still watching where you are on track, and he almost drove into the dirt on a straight, doing some Shane Van Gisbergen style stuff. But with the pace he has, this is just poor Grant Hines. He can do nothing with that McLaren behind it. Looks so much faster, and into the final corner, he almost shuts the door. That was risky, but look at this. It's going to be a drag race between the McLaren and the Mercedes, and this is just going to be a no contest, I'd imagine.
White flag will get thrown there. Surrender from Grant Hines. Morris has got too much pace in that McLaren. Of course, making his splash of fuel, so he will be fueled up, ready to go all the way to the end. Gap at the front, Rogers back to Phil Sell. 1 second. 2 seconds back to Winkelmann, another 5 seconds back to Rizzo. Martin Silvassi is closed back up again on Ross Rizzo. We saw that gap stretch out to about 1.5 seconds. It's closed back into about 7/10.
I wonder how much of that is down to strategy. That Mercedes is very good at fuel saving, has a lot of fuel maps to fuel save, so you don't have to do anything driving style wise. But Silvassi's fuel saving driving style as well, he'll be gaining a lot of fuel, and that's very good and very easy in the Mercedes. Whereas the Ferrari has a much smaller fuel tank, Rizzo would have to be saving so much more than Silvassi would, and I wonder if that's the reason Silvassi is closing quite rapidly now onto the back of that Ferrari, with Rizzo just having to do that extra bit more fuel saving.
May have been contact between Matt Morris and Grant Hines. Saw Morris get through, but they were very, very close at the corkscrew. I can see a bit of damage on the front of Grant Hines' car, but that has happened beforehand. But quickly get a Cup Price Racing replay of how close they were into the corkscrew. Almost contact between them. Big moment for both drivers coming out of the corkscrew as well. As we go back live to the front and to Silvassi. Now trying to potentially work out where he can get a move done, or maybe just fuel saving in some draft. As you said, strategy is a real big key in this race.
Drivers now starting lap number 14, and Silvassi continues to hound Rizzo, and yeah, I think you might be right there, Jay, with Silvassi just pretty happy right now to stick in the draft of Rizzo. Rizzo is a very quick driver, and Silvassi is no slouch either, but with that slipstream, Silvassi would have life so much easier, able to fuel save as well. Now that's going to be a big advantage there for the Trick Sports Mercedes, as Rizzo has to try so much harder to try and get Silvassi out of his slipstream.
Drivers. Sorry, you go, mate. I was just about to say a few drivers in the pits, but Phil Sell catching Rogers. Rather quick, half a second a lap.
Yeah, Rogers is really beginning to struggle now, and I was just about to mention that Laguna Seca is a very tight, very tricky circuit to overtake, and for Rogers at the moment, he does have some lap traffic coming up just in front of him. Would hope they would get it out of the way pretty easily, but around a track like Laguna Seca, that might not be easiest thing in the world, and with Phil Sell catching so quickly at the moment on Rogers, this could be a little bit extra spice in this battle for the win.
Almost at the halfway point in this race, so hopefully the traffic isn't too much of a factor in how this battle potentially will play out. I don't know what the guys are up to in regards to fuel saving modes, or whether they're going for all out pace and potentially having to pit. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the next 15 minutes or so. I think at that point there we'll start to have a better understanding of what the strategy game will be for these guys. But Rogers is definitely going to be held up in this traffic here. He's too much ahead of him for him to not be held up in some form.
And even if the cars aren't actually slowing him down physically, as you can see there, two in the dirt, almost sideways. That would be a heart rate raising moment for Josh Rogers. I was just about to mention just that even if they're not being blocked physically, the dirty air effect that does happen in these GT cars slightly, not as bad as you'd see in an open wheeler car, but it does still affect these GT cars. He'd be turning into a corner, and there is not as much grip as he would like, and he's going to be slowing down even further. So that pretty scary moment for Rogers. I'm going to be keeping a close eye on these lap times in particular, as Rogers now has to get past one of the Phoenix Sim Sports Ferraris. So here comes Rogers across the line. He's going to set a 20.2, so that's 3/10 slower than we had seen him doing previously, and that's 4/10 advantage to Phil Sell on a 19.8.
Gardner moves out of the way and lets Josh Rogers through. Gardner has made his pit stop, as has next car ahead in Shane Bowen. The now fourth car back from this view out the back of Josh Rogers' Mercedes. You can just see off in the distance a little red Mercedes. That'll be a lot bigger in the next couple of laps because it is now under 4 seconds.
One thing I'm a little bit surprised about is Rogers actually not pitting at the moment, because if he were to dive into the pits, he would be able to get out a fair bit of this lap traffic, and he would be able to avoid most of that. But he's pretty he seems pretty keen on sticking it out right now and just trying to make do with the traffic in front. But perhaps that tells us that maybe he isn't quite fuel saving, as Phil Sell now actually getting held up very badly and almost has to do a punt to pass there in the dynamic sim racing car.
Yeah, that's hurt Phil Sell. He lost about 4 or 5/10 of a second there. We approach the halfway point in this race, 23.5 minutes left. Rizzo still maintaining around about that same gap back to Silvassi. Fluctuating between the 4 to 7 tenths mark.
Yeah, Silvassi, a very fast driver, so I think he would have the capacity to close in on Rizzo, so I wouldn't be surprised if that is Silvassi fuel saving at the moment. So I think Martin just trying the fuel saving game, save a couple more liters than Rizzo can at the moment, and that few tenths of a second gap that is separating those two cars at the moment would be completely turned over if Silvassi could save enough fuel. So I think Silvassi on a pretty good strategy right now, if that is what he's in fact doing.
Traffic is playing a factor for Rogers because that gap is now gone from 4.2 at the line. It's now down to 3 seconds flat between Rogers and Phil Sell.
But the good news for Rogers is that once he does clear TJ Brown in front, he will have probably 2-3 laps of cleared traffic. So that's going to be his good thing, or his saviour at the moment, as he crosses the line with a 21.1 compared to Phil Sell on a 19.9. So Phil Sell there trying to get past the lap traffic as soon as he can, not having the easiest pass in the world, and he's actually spun the other car. That's going to hurt him.
That potentially will be a little bit of damage, and I was about to say that you usually have a bit of an advantage being the second car as opposed to the leader because the other cars are more aware of lap traffic, but that just proved my theory completely wrong. Bit of cut price racing replay because that's definitely worth having a second look at.
Oh, one car off very well. That's TJ Brown. Big moment there, and it comes out right in front of Phil Sell. Phil Sell with a huge dive into the corkscrew, and he's hit TJ Brown as well. So Phil Sell having a nightmare lap.
Get another replay of that. So contact with two different cars on the same lap.
I suppose you have to get a bit of variety. You've got a Mercedes, it's turn one, he had to go for a Ford through the corkscrew, so at least he's mixing it up a little bit, but that's a nightmarish lap for Phil Sell there. So the gap was 3.1 seconds, and it's blown out to 3.8. I'm actually surprised how little Rogers was able to gain, so Phil Sell, he hasn't lost too much time, but is there damage on the Harrop Racing Mercedes?
Yeah, last lap around in 19.9 for Rogers. Phil Sell at 20.6. Back behind Winkelman at 20.9, 20.7 for Rizzo, and a 20.6 for Silvassi. Silvassi is the one who I'm most intrigued about in regards to strategy plays because he's now caught right up into the tail of Rizzo, but not looking like he wants to get past. He's just happy sitting there. It's lapping around at the moment, being nice and consistent. Not a bad ploy.
Silvassi was, of course, a part of the ERT Hornets when I was there, and Silvassi was always known to be quite a technical driver. He liked to do things a bit differently. He always was thinking about strategy, so I can pretty much happily bet that Silvassi would be fuel saving right now, like you say, and he'll definitely be thinking about the pit stops right now because they do play such a big factor in this race. Rizzo over the halfway point in this race, so he won't have to fuel save too much if this is how far he can take a tank. But for Rizzo right now, it's got to be worrying seeing how close Silvassi is, but not going for any kind of aggressive move.
And we're into the final 20 minutes now, so we've got around about 14 to 15 laps left in this race. Very, very close battles for me. Obviously, we've been watching the battle on the clock between Rogers and Phil Sell and Rizzo and Silvassi, but Carl Rapper and Mark Rayner, they are still going at it, and Scott Sikowski and Tyler Blackburn. We saw Matt Morris in that battle pack before as well. He's out of that battle pack after making the stop, but Sikowski and Blackburn are still going at it.
With Rapper and Rayner, we have a Mercedes leading a Ferrari. With Slowski and Blackburn, we have a Ferrari leading a Mercedes. So we've got two one-on-one fights at the moment, and Blackburn in that race on Oz Mercedes is beginning to close in a little bit on Slowski. Last laps around, Blackburn took a few hundredths out of Slowski. He'll be looking to gain a bit more than a few hundredths, but he's doing very well in that car. And the same can be said for Rayner, who also took a few hundredths out of Rapper. So both of these battles at the moment are a bit of a stalemate, but at any point this battle could turn on its head. as we have a car around. I believe that's Simon Mazzomo off at that fast left-hander. Indeed it was. So the freshly painted Ferrari of his has unfortunately gone for a bit of a spin, and looks like some decent damage on the front end of that 488.
It doesn't look too healthy, unfortunately, does Simon's car. Not had a great night out there tonight. Just clipped that inside curb and him around and nice and softly into the wall, but enough to put a couple of dents in it.
First of our leaguers. There we go.
Stole your
So
words, mate.
We've done that a few times, but it's all good. Thinking telepathically here at Vance Online, but it'll be interesting to see how much fuel Winkelmann does in fact take. He's already out of the pits, so very much in and out there for Winkelmann. And it'll be interesting to compare just how long he was in the pits there compared to his teammate Silvassi when he eventually pits. So there's one thing to keep an eye on, but at the moment, Rizzo has actually managed to finally catch Silvassi a little bit.
And pull a gap. Pull a gap on Silvassi. Silvassi's now dropped 1.2 seconds behind. I think traffic started to play a factor into this battle pack, the battle that we have seen. Because this is the furthest they've been spread since about lap 4 or 5. When Silvassi went behind us, Silvassi's just been turned! Big hit by Shane Bowen. Just got past the lap car of Bowen, and Bowen way too deep. Just collected the back of Silvassi's car. So that's ended any chance of Silvassi getting involved in that podium fight. Replay on screen. Bowen moved out of the way very well for Ross Rizzo. Got out of the throttle for Silvassi. And then too late on the brakes, too late. 2 wheels in the dirt, couldn't pull it up. And unfortunately makes contact. Disappointing end to that battle.
Silvassi in the pits now, and just for reference, we'll keep an eye on the times between them and see what could have potentially been.
7.7.
And Silvassi, yeah, so he's actually out quicker than his teammate, like we might have suspected, so that's a shame. But once again, Ross Rizzo, the magical man in this series, manages to dodge a bullet and finds himself currently on the podium positions, but that'll all depend on Winkelmann once Rizzo does take his pits. But Rizzo, once again, is got something going for him, as I believe that's sorry, my timing screen is playing up. Nope, I thought that might have been Rogers pitting, but those two, both him and Phil Cell, continue to stay out.
Yeah, disappointing way for that to end. And thinking out loud here, looking at the times, the Ferrari pit stops taking around about 12 to 13 seconds. Some have been as low as 10. The rest of the field, i.e. the Mercedes and the rest, about 6 to 8 seconds. So a big advantage for the Mercedes in the pits over the Ferrari, who are taking a little bit longer in the stop. Going to hurt Rizzo, but probably will bring Winkelmann back up into the position he was in before, that being third.
Yeah, I think Winkelmann is looking pretty good for that third spot at the moment with the fuel state as it is. The Mercedes is a bit nicer with the fuel usage, and it also has a slightly larger tank than the Ferrari, so it's got a lot going for it. But the Ferrari, as good as it looks, as fast as it is, and as great as it sounds, just sadly that is one downfall of the Italian car.
Carl Rapper, Mark Rayner still going at it. Here as well, a little bit of fuel saving going on. Fuel maps turned down. Try and make sure they can get to the next pit stop, or the pit stop. Take as little fuel as possible. Bring it home.
As Rayner
in.
There we go. So Rayner dives into the pits, and it'll be interesting to see if Rapper does in fact respond on the next lap. But with Rapper being out front and Clear Air using a lot of fuel usage to keep Rayner behind, and Rayner behind using the slipstream of Rapper, it'll be interesting to see if that actually nullifies the effect of the Ferraris having a longer pit stop, if Rayner has been able to fuel save enough. So it'll be interesting to see how this does in fact pan out for Rayner we'll see when he does come out of the pits. He's now out of his pit box and heading towards pit lane. And that is about one of the quicker Ferrari stops we've seen so far.
Yeah, I think that is the quickest, or as you said, one of, for sure, for the Ferrari. So we'll see if Rapper comes in this time. Be surprised if we see Rogers and Philsell in next lap or two as well.
And just to quickly continue with that Rayner pit stop, he's actually came out behind Matt Morris as well. So Morris, despite a few close moments on his outlap, has actually gained time on Rayner. So that's advantage there for the McLaren.
And he's made that all out on track since he got some clean air after that. It's a poor outlap for him, getting involved with traffic. And something else that I've just noticed on the timing sheet as well is Winkelmann held up quite badly by Tyler Blackburn. Blackburn now dives into the pits and lets Winkelmann get some fresh air, but Winkelmann, is probably ahead of Rizzo in regards to where he's going to fall out after the pit stops, but he lost a fair bit of time on that lap then.
Yeah, he did. Most cars on track at the moment, well, the leaders are into the 19s on some laps and most are into the 20s. For Winkelmann, that was in the 21, so that would have hurt him. And with Rizzo in the 20s, currently in fresh air, he's got some decent space until he reaches TJ Brown in the Ford. It'll be interesting to see how much that does close up, because Winkelmann, like you said, lost a lot of time there. Rogers and Philsell continue on for another lap, and with 10 minutes to go, these guys are really stretching the Mercedes to its limits. So those guys are doing a massive job. It'll be interesting to see if Rizzo does come into the pits on this lap to react to a few of the pit stops around him. No, he's going to stay for another lap. So Rizzo trying to hang on to that Ferrari for as long as he can and try and hold off this attack from Winkelmann once he finally gets into some clear air.
Gap between Rizzo and Winkelmann is around about 17 seconds. Looking at the pit cycle time, it's around about 29 seconds in the lane, including the stop. So time you take out the speed difference, around about 18 to 19 second loss, I would be guessing. But Rizzo's been a magician in this series. We've seen every race so far, he's pulled something out in some way to move up from where we would expect him to be. So don't be surprised if something bizarre happens once again with Ross Rizzo in this race. Gap between the leaders is the closest it's been all race 2 since Rogers got away after lap 2. Down to 2.9 seconds as into the lane comes Josh Rogers.
Yep, and Philsell's going to stay out, so Philsell will get some nice clean air in the race lead for now, but it'll be interesting to compare pit stops for Rogers, see where he comes out, and Philsell will see that and know if he has to short fill a little bit, get track position and just hold on for dear life and hope he can make it to the finish line without coughing on fuel. That's one strategy Philsell has up his sleeve by pitting second, but as Rogers in the lane waiting for him to be released, I don't think he was fuel saving much because that was a relatively long pit stop.
I think it's one of the longest stops we've seen for the Mercedes as well. 8.3 seconds, just riding on board with Winkelmann. He had Scott Kozlowski just ahead of him, was potentially holding him up a little bit, but now back into clean air. That maintained at 17 seconds between Winkelmann and Rizzo. Winkelmann now up to 5th position, 3 cars ahead of him yet to pit. Of course, Rogers has made his stop and he's come out around about 13 or 14 seconds ahead of Winkelmann.
Gotszlowski has made his way into the pit lane, and it'll be interesting to see how he goes in his battle there with all the cars before he comes out of the pits, and he's going to be a long way behind, so that Ferrari has lost a lot of time in the pits compared to his competitors.
Yeah, so Tyler Blackburn, who was the main one he was battling, actually mightn't be too far off once he gets up to speed with Tyler Blackburn with that little shortcut. Well, Blackburn and Kozlowski were pretty much pushing each other a few laps ago, and the gap, he might have actually gained about a second on Blackburn. Philsell in the lane.
So here we go. This is going to be an interesting part. So Rogers went through pit lane with a time of 30.8 seconds. Phil Sale already rolling. He's going to come out. He is 1.5 seconds faster than Rogers. Rogers already storming towards turn 1, but with 8 minutes left on the clock, that gap has come down considerably.
3.5 seconds before it stops. Once Phil Sale gets back up to speed, I'm going to say it's going to be around 2. 1.8.
Like 1.8.
Yep. Ross
So
Rizzo's
that's a
in
big gap.
and out. Isn't too far away from Winkleman. A bit closer than I thought he was going to be, and he's got fair distance on Silvassi after we saw Silvassi get involved in that incident. So that is battle done. That aspect, but Phil Sale, I think, is close enough to apply some pressure on Rogers in these last couple of laps. Someone just went straight ahead behind them. It was TJ Brown's had a big, massive crash. Did a barrel roll and all.
TJ Brown just clipped that sausage curb on the inside, and from there the 4GT did what every muscle car cliche is and just did not turn straight into the wall. Nice little bit of gymnastics in the middle there. Nice dismount there as well, and I'd give that a 10 out of 10. And I'm no gymnastics coach, but I think TJ Brown's doing pretty well for himself.
Yeah, I think he got 7.4 from the Ukrainian judge for the dismount and the landing, but that was pretty good to land it on all 4 wheels like that. That was good. Oh, wow. Go back live to the front. Phil Sale 1.6. He's closing. 7 minutes to go.
Yeah, this is going to get very interesting. So Rogers will see that bright red Harrop Mercedes getting ever closer in his mirrors. The two have a little bit of clean air for a little bit until they get to Grant Hines. So that'll be good news for Rogers, but he will have traffic to deal with before the end of this race, as we see Phil Sale 2 wheels in the dirt, trying to gain any time he can. And on this lap alone, it's still stuck on 0.6 seconds. So 2 of the fastest guys in Australia in a GT3 car going head-to-head with just 6.5 minutes remaining. Rogers clipping the inside curb, goes into the dirt, and that gap's now come down to 1.5 seconds as we stand. And that's just going to keep coming down and down if Rogers just keeps looking in his mirror. What he has to do, just keep your eyes on the front windscreen and don't look back.
Phil Sale will let him know when he's there too, because he'll get a little bump at some point from Phil Sale when he gets to his tail, because it's not if now, it's definitely when, because Phil Sale has got this Harrop PTR car absolutely wound up. 5 minutes to go, 5.5 minutes to go, gap at the line, 1.4 seconds. That lap around 2/10 official gap, official gain for Jared Phil Sale. As the predictometer's gone a bit crazy. We've got 5 minutes to go in this race. Thought I'd fix the predictometer, but it's gone haywire again.
Well, you build it, so I'm not surprised it's going a bit haywire for you, Jay.
That's why I don't race.
But for Phil Sale, he is just flying at the moment. He's already taken a 10th out on this lap alone. You could see the different lines they took in a turn 1 at the start of the lap. Phil Sale was basically knocking over caution cones. He was trying to get that much of an apex advantage into the first turn, and it worked for him clearly. As we started this lap at 1.3 seconds separating them, the current standings as we head into the corkscrew is just 1 second between the two. As we exit the corkscrew, it's down to 9/10 of a second. So Phil Sale doing everything he can, and Rogers now into traffic. One of the Ferraris there gets out of the way of both leaders absolutely brilliantly. So kudos to that driver there, as we're seeing smoke on the apex there. So perhaps a Ferrari blew up there, but for Phil Sale right now, 5 minutes left on the clock basically. He's going to start lap 31, and that gap is down to just 1 second for him.
I think we've got 4 laps left in this race, maybe 3, so not too long to go with 4 minutes left on the clock. We'll just see what Phil Sale can do once he gets there, because once he's right on the tail, I don't know where he's going to be able to get a move done, but he will definitely try and get one done.
That's one thing you can always guarantee with Phil Sale. He'll never give up, and he'll always give it a shot. Even if it's only a 10% chance of working out, he'll still go for it. So it's just a matter of when Phil Sale can get onto the back of Rogers. The laps are running down. There's a Ferrari off. That's Mazzoma again. So he is not having the best run in the world through that corner. but Rogers was also wheels in the dirt there and under brakes at the apex of the corkscrew. It's down to 9/10 of a second, but Phil Cell needs it to come down that little bit faster than it is right now.
It needs to gain a bit more time. Saying that he's gaining a fair bit, 2.5 tenths to 3 tenths a lap. And look at the big advantage under brakes right there at the final corner. Going to be under a second at the line. 3 minutes on the clock, so that'll be 3 laps to go.
All comes down to this: strategy options, fuel saving options, how fast you can get around this tight track in this AMG. And it comes down to 9/10 of a second with 3 laps to go. Phil Cell still haunting the back of Rogers, who has traffic in front of him once again. That's Grant Hines, like we mentioned before. Once Rogers can get past Hines, it will be pretty clear for him for potentially the rest of the race. So for Rogers, this is one final obstacle, but Phil Cell, good on you, man. He's got those headlights flashing. He is giving it all he's got right now.
The rest of the field has very settled down a lot, so not missing out on too much else, because this battle is very, very intense. And Rogers has pulled a little bit of time in the last couple of corners. It's out to 1.1.
So we're approaching 2 laps to go, and it's still very much on, but Rogers has begun to respond a little bit in this fight with Phil Cell as they approach now the start-finish line. Every kilometer will be mattering for Josh Rogers right now. It's a 3.6 kilometer circuit, and he's going to be feeling every meter of it as we go now into turn 1, hard braking zone, and Phil Cell looks so much better on the brakes throughout the rest of the lap, and he does so again into turn 1. And the gap for the line was 1.2. After turn 1, it's almost down to 1.1. So just 10th by 10th, Phil Cell continues to hunt the back of that TTL Mercedes.
One minute left on the clock. 1.5 laps left. There's nothing left in this race now. I don't know if Phil Cell's going to be able to get there now, because Rogers is pulling a bit of a gap.
Maybe Phil Cell used up a bit too much of his tyres there, trying to get past. We're trying to catch up time to Rogers. Of course, that gap was out to 3.5 seconds at one point, and with all the traffic that did not go in the favour of Phil Cell in the end, he would have had to use a lot of tyres up to actually get this gap down as far as he has. But as we enter the final corner to start the final lap, traffic looks like it might be able to get out of the way at the end of this straight, so that's good news for Rogers. But for Jared Phil Cell, he is just running out of time right now. 3.6 kilometers to go.
Down to 1 second. Rogers has done enough over the last 3 laps to maintain that gap, but pressure is well and truly on now. He finished the job. Saw him lead at Road Atlanta for a long portion of the race, but not able to finish the job. But that was in the Audi. This time in the Mercedes. Clock has officially hit 0. Gap very stable on this last lap though.
Phil Cell not giving up. He's got those headlights flashing as much as he can. But Rogers is doing a very good job at the moment. Phil Cell with a great run through that fast left-hander, but it's just a little bit too late unless something catastrophic happens to Rogers. But you can see how aggressive Phil Cell was there, throwing it into the corkscrew. But as we head into the final 3 corners, Josh Rogers has drove a fantastic race. He had the strategy perfectly. He got through the traffic cleanly, and he had the pace to do it from the front, starting from pole position, 3/10 ahead of Phil Cell. And as we round the final corner to cross the line for the Oceanic Sprint Championship, round number 5 at Laguna Seca, Josh Rogers takes it a second ahead of Jared Phil Cell.
Great battle. This guy's put on Anthony Winkleman. Consolidated that 3rd position across the line. A fairly decent gap back to Ross Rizzo in 4th. So well done to Winkleman. Strategy play, bit of clean air. Great start as well to put pressure on Phil Cell on lap 1. Meant that he's able to pick up 3rd position. Ross Rizzo again finishes ahead of his starting position. He finishes in 4th. Rounding at the top 5 will be Martin Silvassi. Unfortunately involved in an incident with a lap car. He will not be overly happy with his 5th place finish, but has finished the race, which he unfortunately wasn't able to do last week at Imola. So, seeing him out there and finishing this week, 5th won't be a terribly disappointing result because it's a very, very competitive field.
It was a lot of quick guys there, and got a bit of a little party happening at turn 1 as drivers finished the race there, all potentially celebrating their results or thinking what could have been, but overall that was a fantastic race. Lots of different strategies, and car choices really came into it in the end.
Race results are on screen. Josh Rogers picks up the win, 1.01 seconds in the end over Jared Filsell. Anthony Winkleman in 3rd. Ross Rizzo finished in 4th with Martin Silvassi in 5th. Mark Rayner in 6th position. Carl Rapper in 7th. Close finish between Scott Slowski and Matt Morris in the end. Only 2/10 separating those two, 8th and 9th. And Tyler Blackburn rounds out the top 10.
In P number 11, Daryl Carter finishes, and in 12th is going to be David Jellings, with Jeremy Franklin being the last car on the lead lap, with Mark Simon, Grant Hines, Jeffrey Price, Griffin Gardner, JP Courier, Rodney Dangry, Rob James Harris, and Ots Drift all finishing 1 lap down.
Robert Northway, Simon Mazzomo, TJ Brown, David Coleman, Shane Bowen, Corey Ott, Jake Maloney, and Brent O'Brien, 20 drivers who started the race. Those drivers not finished. But a very, very entertaining race. Thoroughly enjoyed that one tonight. And once again, Oceanic Sprint Championship turns on a great show.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy today, and with the pit stops and how it all panned out, I think we got a fantastic race. And next week, I believe we'll be at Phillip Island, and well, we all know that it's going to be high speed and it's going to be plenty of chaos there at Phillip Island, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Phillip Island next week. Well, of course, tomorrow night we'll be back for the Cup Price Racing MX5 Challenge. I just forgot what my own series was for running for a second, but yeah, looking forward to that tomorrow night. We head to Circuit Zolder. Looking forward to bringing that one to you. Over the weekend, we will be presenting the iRacing official Bathurst 1000. Looking forward to that one as well. Monday night, we will have the official bout supercars from Summit Point. As you said, next Wednesday night, we will have from Phillip Island. And next weekend, have the Oceanic Endurance Championship. There are still spots available, especially in the GT3 and HPD classes. So if you are interested in having a bit of a steer, entries are open, entries are free. But sign up and have some fun. I know, Bo, you're potentially going to have a run, I'm thinking. Yes, no?
Yep, I'm signed up for one of the cars, but how many rounds I'll do, I'm not too sure, because obviously got a fair bit coming up with your MX-5s and obviously this series as well, so we'll see how it goes, but regardless, should be a fantastic series, multi-class, which we don't get too much here in Australia. I mean, what's not to like?
I agree. It's going to be a very, very fun series. Bring it on. It's only a couple of weeks away. A week and a bit away, so cannot wait for that. But thank you very much for tuning in, everybody. We will be back tomorrow night, as we said, for the Cup Price Race. So thank you once again for Ruth. Again, for another night.
No worries, but it'll be good to be out there racing with all these guys next week.
Cannot wait for next week. Heaps of action, as we said, on V8's Online throughout the week. Make sure you follow us on Facebook. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Head to our website. Keep up to date with all the news, all the goss. And we will see you tomorrow night for the Cup Price Racing MX5 Challenge. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.